Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I'm back with another Game of Thrones news video. Now, in the last news video, I talked about a castle set that is being built. And I touched on the fact that I thought it was either going to be King's Landing, White Harbor, or Winterfell. And my reasoning is because it had to involve a huge action set piece, as well as there were some trebuchets found nearby the set location. My second point was that it had windows, which means it must be King's Landing, which sounds a lot more stupid me re-saying that. But anyways, the most important part was that a lot of you in the comment section down below said that it could be Storm's End. So it made me think of a piece of news that came out during the release of Game of Thrones Season 7, and it was buried. And I wanted to bring it back and present it to you guys. And what that news was, is during the time we were enjoying Game of Thrones Season 7, the producers of the show were scouting for 2 new locations to film. The first location was this castle, and the producers of the show took a huge interest in the Round Tower. Now, why I find this so significant is because if you search any image of Storm's End, you will find that it has a very iconic round tower. And if the producers of the show are scouting for a new castle, it does make sense that it would be Storm's End because honestly, we have seen almost every major castle in all of Westeros. Storm's End would be the perfect little cherry on top, and with the introduction of Gendry in the last season, it would be really interesting for them to introduce the castle to us. But in this situation, I kind of have to be a pessimist. I do think we're going to see Storm's End. However, I think we'll see it later in the season. What I don't think is that there's going to be a major action set piece there. Now, feel free to call me an idiot and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my perspective. Cersei's sitting in King's Landing with her Lannister men. She has 20,000 Golden Company men coming west back to Westeros to fight for her. And they have elephants, guys. And I understand that Daenerys has the concern that as soon as she goes north, Cersei's going to start taking over Westeros again. I may be stupid, but I don't see Cersei's point in capturing Storm's End. In Season 7, her and Jaime gave up Casterly Rock to have a strategic advantage that allowed them to give up their ancestral home while pursuing Highgarden to get the resources. And that's what's key, to get resources. What does Storm's End have? The Baratheons have been dead for so long, we don't even know what's happening with Storm's End, and we don't even know the value it has. It seems to me it would be more of a logical situation. Instead of spreading out her army amongst all these separate areas where Daenerys could just take her over, Cersei would concentrate her army and either stay at King's Landing, or be the aggressor in this situation and attack Daenerys Targaryen from the south while the White Walkers are marching from the north. But let me know what you think will happen to Storm's End, and I think people's opinion on what will happen to Storm's End is pretty much going to be dictated on what they think Cersei is going to do in the next season. Some people think she's going to be passive, and she's going to be smart, and she's going to strategically outmaneuver Daenerys like she did in Season 7. However, I'm of the different opinion, where I think that she's going to have a miscarriage with her baby, and she's going to have nothing left, seeing that Jaime left her, and she's left in the scenario where she's going to be queen to make a legacy for absolutely no one. So I think this whole Mad Queen we're talking about, I think that's going to hit Cersei. And she's going to send the Golden Company, as well as Greyjoy's fleet, north. And this makes sense to me in multiple ways. If she sends Euron Greyjoy to White Harbor, first of all, that's a location that we've been introduced to in Season 7 that I'm confident we'll be seeing in Season 8. And second of all, it cuts off the North's ability to leave the North. White Harbor is their scapegoat from being safe from the White Walkers. They made it very clear that the White Walkers can't cross water. And they beat us to hell over the head with that, because the survival of our favorite characters was just because they were standing on a rock and some ice broke. So I think if Euron cuts off their ability to sail on the water, it'll really raise the stakes. And if you send the Golden Company north, it'll throw a wrench in the conflict to the north, where they're going to be trapped between the Golden Company and the White Walkers. And I think that will be very climactic, but I could be very wrong. So I'm just going to move on. Now, the producers of the show scouted for more than just one castle. They also scouted for another location. And this location is a 16th century Renaissance church. Now, at the time when I reported on this, I had no idea what I thought it was. My only logic was that it looked a lot like Essos. And then I just released a video talking about the Lord of Light and its prophecy, and the conflict between Melisandre and Kinvara. And that really opened my eyes to what this location could be. Now, I gotta say, I think that this location is the Red Temple of Volantis. It seems like it has the perfect architecture, and if they want to make it bigger, they can do that with CG. And this aligns perfectly with the story of Game of Thrones. We last left off with Melisandre talking to Varys, and she said that she was going to Volantis for some mission.
So where will you go? Volantis.
Good.
Now in Essos, we have Kinvara. She's the High Priestess of the Red Temple of Volantis. And she made it very clear that she is a full supporter of Daenerys Targaryen. However, she has no idea who Jon Snow is. And Melisandre has pretty much supported the theory of Jon Snow being Azor Ahai. So I think we will see Melisandre go to Volantis, go to the Red Temple, and introduce this thought to Kinvara and her priests. And she may also come back to Westeros with an army, and they may have an enlightened idea on who Azor Ahai actually is. And secondly, I would think that this is very interesting news, because Melisandre has always been a side character who is just a spoke in another person's greater story. In this season, if we actually do see her go to Volantis, she's going to be carrying her own scenes as a primary character. So I think that will be very interesting to see. Now secondly, and more important news, and this is kind of common sense, and I didn't report on it when it first came out because I thought it was stupid, but I'm going to report on it now. People have seen Christopher Hivju, or whatever his name is, in Belfast filming. So that confirms that Tormund actually survives the encounter with the White Dragon. But I think for the majority of people, we all knew that Tormund and Beric Dondarrion would survive that encounter. And if they were actually going to kill these characters off, we would have seen their death. And secondly, a more important point is that Beric Dondarrion told the Hound before he left that they would see each other again.
We'll meet again, Clegane.
Fucking hope not.
So when I was watching the show and I heard that, you know that those characters are going to be safe because they have to reunite. But then I got to thinking as of how. We know that the White Walkers are going to be marching south. And it seems like they're going to be going to the Last Hearth, Carhold, making their way to Winterfell. From my point of view, Beric Dondarrion and Tormund can't run straight south to Winterfell because they'd be intertwining with the White Walker threat. I believe that Beric Dondarrion and Tormund are going to be running west across the wall to Castle Black. And they're going to come across Dolorous Edd. And we know that the actor who plays Dolorous Edd is going to be in Season 8, so this does line up. And I believe at this point they will be summoned to Winterfell because they have no wall to protect anymore because the White Walkers have already passed it. Now our third news story is casting. There's been a casting call for a sad-eyed young girl who's aged 9 to 11. But what's so significant about it is that they're going to share a scene with a leading cast member. And this young girl has to have a few characteristics. They have to have a southern accent. So that means that they're going to be in or around King's Landing. And this role could be nothing. It could just be a poor commoner in a city. But then I started thinking about Qyburn and Varys and their little birds. We know that Varys has a giant network of little birds that gather information for him, and we know that Qyburn has since taken over those birds for himself. So it seems to me that this little girl is going to have a role to play with either Qyburn or Varys. And I just want to point out one giant secret that may have a key role in this. We know that Jon Snow is actually Aegon Targaryen. And if Varys finds out about this secret, I think it will drastically affect who he supports in Game of Thrones Season 8. And I think he would change his support by using his resources, his vast web of connections. But if you want to know more about it, check out my video. But that is it, everybody, for the news today. Please let me know what you think in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.